Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we welcome you to speak in your preferred language, speak and listen in your preferred language during our event today. We offer simultaneous interpretation in Spanish and English during our meetings so that everyone can speak and be heard in the language that they prefer. On your computer, click the interpretation globe button at the bottom of the screen and select your preferred language. If you speak during the meeting, be sure to speak in the language of the channel that you are using. On your mobile device, click the More button, then select Interpretation and pick your preferred language. Unfortunately, this feature is not supported if you are using your phone. Hello, everyone, again, and welcome to Grantmakers in the Arts 2023 Conference GIA Multiverse Revisiting Pasts to Build the Future Summer Series. This is our third session, and we are thrilled that you've been able to join us. My name is Jamie Sharp. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a light-skinned Black femme with shoulder-length curly hair, wearing a peach and green blouse with some fun Halloween decor behind me. I also want to take a moment for a land acknowledgement. GIA is headquartered on the unceded lands of the Lenape and Wappinger peoples. We ask you to join in acknowledging the Lenape and Wappinger communities, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. To learn more about Native land, we encourage you to click on the link in the chat. The title of today's session is Community Wellbeing, Supporting Artists Beyond Museum Walls. Before we get into the content, I just have a few housekeeping items. We encourage you to take a moment to review our conference guidelines found on the conference website on the FAQ page on how to convene. Also, all of the sessions are recorded, so that's great news, and we encourage you to watch the previous two sessions, as well as any of the upcoming ones that you may miss. They will all live in the virtual portal. Be sure to remain on mute when our speakers are presenting, and if you have any technical issues during the presentation, you can reach out directly to Ali or Jess, who can both assist you in the chat. You can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit questions to our presenters. And if you would like your experience to include live captioning, select the closed caption or the CC feature in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen and select Show Subtitles. Today, we will hear from Bahia Ramos, Marianne Ramírez Aponte, Alexandra Pagán Vélez, Pedro Carrion, and Joaquin Octavio. And with that, I'm excited to pass the mic over to Bahia and Marianne to get us started. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jamie, and welcome to everyone today for joining us at this GIA virtual session. I'm Bahia Ramos. I'm the VP of Arts here at the Wallace Foundation. I'm a dark-skinned Black woman with an Afro puff piled on top of my head, wearing wireframe glasses. Wallace is a national foundation, and our mission is to foster equity and improvements in learning and enrichment for young people and in the arts for everyone. We try to identify important knowledge gaps in our areas of interest and fund partnerships that help us learn more about those identified gaps and then share what we learn with the field and beyond. I want to take a pause. Sorry, what I did not mention in housekeeping today is that at approximately 2:20, all of our phones, our cellular phones, will go off as part of the National Emergency Management System. So if you could please be on mute, and I acknowledge that at 2:20 we might all be distracted, and we'll try to pick it up after that minute is over, but it would help us all if we remained on mute as this happens. So to continue on, this is our strategic approach. We try to identify these gaps, and we try by partnering with organizations to really understand their context. From that context, we generate improvements and insights that help us build knowledge around a particular focus and area. And we take this information built from both our programmatic and research activities into the field and to help benefit both the partnering organizations that we fund, but also the field in which we care about. Our current initiative is focused on arts organizations founded by, for, and with communities of color. This in part comes from lessons that we learned from our previous initiative entitled Building Audiences for Sustainability. That initiative, which ended in 2019, really sought to determine whether arts organizations could bolster their finances by increasing or diversifying their audiences. In part, the answer we kind of came across was kind of, but not really. The answer was not quite sufficient in terms of just adding people to your roster to building real organizational well-being. So it left us to wonder what other elements might be important to achieve organizational stability and sustainability in the arts. Some studies we commissioned pointed to one possibility, a focus on community. And it's that focus on community that appears to be important in the new subset of organizations that we're working with, arts organizations who are founded by, for, and with communities of color. The guiding question we entered when we launched this was how arts organizations founded by, for, and with communities of color define and advance their well-being. We've invested $104 million over the next 5 years into 3 cohorts of organizational partners. One, and the first of which are 18 larger organizations. These are organizations with budgets between 500,000 and 3 million who are devising and putting in place new programs, practices, or systems that are intended to strengthen their operations. The second is working with arts service organizations to build regranting programs that are focused on smaller organizations of color with budgets below $500,000, who we know comprise an important part of the arts ecosystem. And the third is really being able to amplify the amount of information and research that is out about arts organizations of color and their legacies and contributions to the arts ecosystem. And these are commissioned studies that are led by researchers and arts organizations of color themselves. But today we'll be focused on this first segment, the 18 large organizations. And that is what led us to our partnership with MAC and El Barrio. MAC and El Barrio is one of these 18. This is just a snapshot of who we're currently working with. Some of you may recognize some of these organizations. They are theaters, dance organizations, artist-centered, visual arts organizations, and multidisciplinary organizations, all community-based and throughout the United States. For MAC and El Barrio, our work is targeted at expanding this program, which you'll hear about from Marianne very shortly, MAC and El Barrio, which over the last 10 years has brought together community life, voices, and issues of today into the museum through commissioned works, workshops, research, and documentation that's presented both in the community and the museum. If you're able to visit Puerto Rico for the GIA conference next month, you'll likely see many aspects of MAC and El Barrios who travel through San Juan and the neighboring communities. But for today, I'd like to introduce, and it is my pleasure to introduce Marianne and her partners. Their full bios are in the chat, but I'll share some things about them briefly. Marianne Ramírez Aponte has been for the last 13 years executive director and chief curator of MAC, and she is the creator of MAC and El Barrio. Alexandra Pagán Vélez is an artist collaborator of MAC and El Barrio, a poet, narrator, and essayist, and she is the writer of many books, including Otro Duelo, El Diccionario, y El Capitán, and Oro Real. Joaquin Octavio is a director, playwright, and visual artist. His works are centered on researching and preserving rituals, memories, and imaginaries of marginalized individuals and communities. Pedro Carrion is an advisor and community liaison to MAC, along with Joaquin Octavio, and whose oral histories were developed for his project, were developed in partnership with Carrion. Pedro is the executive director of Corredor y del Yaguazo, Catano, and Puerto Rican-based NGO. And for the last 2 decades, he's helped create environmental stewardship programs geared towards the protection of La Cucharias marsh. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Marianne and her team to present on MAC en el Barrio. Marianne?
Yes, thank you so much, Bahia. I would like to begin by thanking the Wallace Foundation and Grantmakers in the Arts for the opportunity to share our work this afternoon and how we go about supporting artists and procuring community well-being. So I would like to start by talking a bit about our institution. I know that the main interest is a program MAC en el Barrio, which is, as Bahia mentioned, our outreach program. But I would like to say, to share a bit also about the work that we do within our walls at the museum. So here you can see, the concepts that define the work that we do. We agreed on them as they encompass what we are fundamentally dedicated to, which is art, who we are and whom we serve, people or gente, and how do we do that? Through participatory culture. So MAC plays a critical function as the leading museum for contemporary art and public commissions in Puerto Rico. And our approach through social justice projects, activism, and community well-being really define who we are as our institution. And they are also very important to the way in which we develop our different programs, which I'm going to be talking about very briefly: collections and exhibitions, education, Taller Vivo, which is live workshop, MAC en el Barrio, and La 18. So when thinking about this and how I would be able to present, in a very brief manner, the work that we do at the MAC, I thought of strategic direction. So I'm going to be sharing some of these directions with you today. And one of the main ones is to advance collections, stewardship, and access. It is very important to mention that the MAC is a museum founded by artists. Next year, we are going to be celebrating the 40 years of our foundation, and that we fill a particular space in Puerto Rico as the only institution dedicated to the study of contemporary art, and specifically, to contemporary art produced since the mid-20th century in Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, Latin America, and its diasporas. As an ongoing practice, MAC is continuously in revision of its permanent collection to calibrate and expand it to better reflect diversity. And, throughout these years, the MAC has also been acquiring works that redress imbalances of race, gender, national origin, and/or identity in the collection, which also enables us to carry out our mission at an international level. In addition to acquisitions, the museum thoughtfully considers work, as you are going to be seeing today, works that may result from a commission, be it as part of Taller Vivo or MAC en el Barrio programs. So here, for you to have an idea of, how our galleries, for example, here is the exhibition of our permanent collection, exhibition that was called Carrios Relevos, other images of other exhibitions. So another strategic direction has to do with connecting our cultural production with different audiences. The museum, as you will see, not only has an exhibitions program, but also implements residency programs and, of course, publications. And there are certain themes, which are recurrent in our programming, which are topics that have to do with civil and human rights, environmental justice, colonialism, gender identities, among other topics. And you're going to see also how we work with this, in a community setting. And of course, we are also, set in studying and the representation of Afro-descendant, Caribbean, and Latinx artists, as I mentioned. One of the main resources that the museum also has, besides the work that we carry out here within our building, are digital. There's the alert. We have different digital resources that the museum creates, and through a collaboration with Google Arts and Culture, the museum has been able to share with international audiences exhibitions, works in our collection, and archival highlights. This platform has been essential, particularly since COVID, for us to develop native online exhibitions and digital components that include curator-led tours, artist interviews and commentaries, and reflections on different scholars. So it's a great platform to learn more about exhibitions here at the museum. Another strategic direction has to do with supporting and advancing practicing artists. And the museum, through the different programs and through different efforts having to do with advocacy, supports and advances the practices of artists by producing and providing professional development, as well as serving as as centers for artists of all disciplines through our educational exhibitions and commissions program. So I'm going to be discussing soon, how we support the integration of artists into communities in non-traditional art settings. And through this work, how we are also fostering regional connections by working with Caribbean artists, the different open calls that the museum, open calls for proposals that the museum publishes. So there are different initiatives to provide work opportunities for artists. And even within our facilities, you are going to see how we really push, the limits of what we are able to do within our building, and the way that we use our building, although we have very limited space, but as a space, that is open not only for the cultural activity that the museum generates, but also for it to be used by artists and arts organizations to provide workshops, for rehearsals, screenings, etc. The other thing that we do, since 1997, we have an artist emergency fund that provides financial aids to artists, and artists run spaces going through different emergency situations. In the case of artists, illness, natural disasters, etc., or any situation, that is outside of the artist's control. And as I mentioned, the museum also furthers, artists' interests and that of other workers in the cultural ecosystem by engaging in advocacy work with government and agencies and nonprofits. In this case, this is very important, particularly the work that I carry out in the organizations that are mentioned in the slide. And in the case of the Movimiento Una Sola Voz, which will be translated One Voice Movement, it has been crucial to the work that we do, because here I share work, with other service organizations that provide services, in other areas such as human rights, education, etc. Okay, so here we have, an image of a project that was called Animal Politic Queer. It's an example of what is the program Taller Vivo, a live workshop which is an artist in residency program that takes place within the museum. And through the Taller Vivo, the museum provides financial support and workshop space for inviting artists, allowing visitors to the museum the opportunity to observe and participate directly in the process of art making. And by doing this, consolidating their education on contemporary art and its issues. This particular program also has been essential to strengthening, the role of the museum as an interdisciplinary institution, open to all artistic manifestations, assuming them not as a complementary program into a collection of visual arts, but as a matter of study, collection, and exhibition in themselves. And this is an example of another performance piece that was presented at the museum, Marianne Soto, Todos Mis Muertos. This was held in conjunction with the exhibition Novenario. And this particular exhibition is an exhibition that dealt, with the issue of loss here in Puerto Rico, and mourning due to the different emergencies that our country has faced, in the last decade. And it was like, for us, it was like coming full circle, not only with, I'm going to show you later, the community emergency program that the museum has in place and that has been active since Hurricane Maria in 2017. And this exhibition, as I said, it's like an experience of full circle, not only of the museum having dealt with the immediate emergency, but, having some years past, being able to grasp, the significance of that experience and being able to process it, through art making. This is another example, and I'm just going to go through this quickly, of another performance piece that engaged a numerous group of dancers here in Puerto Rico, ballet dancers, contemporary dancers. It's called Pataki 1921 by artist Ulrich Lopez. So as you can see, this is our interior courtyard. Again, we are very creative in the way that we use our building and our architecture. And this is an example also of the ways that the museum is continuously trying to bridge the gap, between the streets and our building to be a welcoming setting for all of our communities. And in this case, this is an exhibition that was called Feminisms in Puerto Rico. It's an example of how we work in partnership with community organizations, in this case, Coordinadora Paz para las Mujeres, which is an organization that provides services to survivors of gender violence. In this case, we had photographers, Raquel Perez Puig and Emilio Rodriguez. Basically, we had close to 300 portraits installed within the museum building and in our fence, exterior fence, as you can see. And what was really special about this project was the opportunity to meet feminist women leaders from around the island community, leaders, and the educational program that took place in conjunction with this project. This lady that you see here standing with the green T-shirt, she is a senator, Ana Irma Rivera Lacen. So this particular project, it was like sort of like an emergency project in which we used the exhibition as a means to advocating for the declaration by the governor of an emergency state in Puerto Rico due to the femicides and gender violence that have been raising, numbers raising pretty, regretfully. So this is an emergency project. Again, we use the museum's outside fence for this. This is another project, and now I would like to invite Alexandra Pagán. I know she's going to be able to talk about this project in a beautiful way. It's called Santurce, un libro mural.
Hello, do you hear me? ¿Me escuchan? Okay. Bueno, pues thanks for having me. I'm gonna be switching to Spanish because el español, ¿verdad? Yo sueño, amo y vivo en español, así que se me hace mucho más fluido poder hablar en español. Pero trataré de ser pausada para beneficio de quienes estén traduciendo. Pues sí, nuevamente es un gran honor estar participando y estar hablando del proyecto del MAC, que siempre para mí es importantísimo por la visibilidad que le da a la literatura y a las comunidades, ¿verdad? Y cómo puede integrar la comunidad con el arte y la literatura, la considera parte, ¿verdad? Significativa del arte contemporáneo, y eso yo me siento sumamente agradecida. Pues Santurce, un libro mural, ofreció una serie de recorridos. Uno fueron el 17 y el 23 de febrero del 2018 y se mantuvo, ¿verdad? Hasta todavía hay espacios, ¿verdad? De la ciudad de Santurce que tienen estas intervenciones, estas piezas de arte de Rafael Trelles. Rafael Trelles es un pintor bien reconocido puertorriqueño, y él hizo una serie de ilustraciones que fueron acompañadas por textos de Francisco Font Acevedo, un narrador también muy reconocido, muy querido, puertorriqueño. Y entonces, pues, lo describen como un libro pictórico narrativo, porque precisamente distintas instancias de distintas áreas de la ciudad, pues fueron adornadas, la realidad, con unas piezas como las que pueden verse allí, y esas eran acompañadas con pequeñas anécdotas que tenían esta pequeña, era como una frontera, ¿verdad?, entre lo imaginado, pero con una gran carga y valor histórico. Y se trataron, ¿verdad?, de 22 murales a lo largo de toda la ciudad, y se dieron varios recorridos que invitaban a la gente, ¿verdad?, a que hicieran esa ruta. Se puede ver ahí en el mapa cómo se hacía todo un recorrido por el área de Santurce. Y entonces algo que yo quería destacar es que estos espacios y las instancias históricas que se recreaban y que se visibilizaban eran más horizontales y comunitarias, ¿no? No necesariamente respondían, ¿verdad?, al discurso turístico del capital, sino más bien a las lógicas de la comunidad de Santurce. Y entonces al mismo tiempo, ¿verdad?, visibilizaban no solamente lo que correspondía al discurso de la industria de turismo, sino verdaderamente a la gente que vive en Santurce, a las personas que caminamos Santurce, y al mismo tiempo traían al imaginario popular, pues, una historia que no necesariamente, ¿verdad?, era la que se reconoce desde la oficialidad. Y así que de modo coincidental, porque si uno va caminando, de momento te topas con esta estampa que te da toda esta anécdota sobre el espacio donde uno está. También pues hubo esta especie de recorrido que ya mencioné, que para mí pues eso rescata y centraliza la historia propia, ¿verdad?, de Santurce. Aparte ¿verdad?, de esas piezas, hubo una serie de escritos, uno de ellos por Ana Teresa Toro, que es una escritora de narrativa, también poeta y periodista, y asimismo Roberto Titotero hizo un documental en video. Quiero cerrar citando, porque la parte de estas personas hubo mucha documentación en la prensa, pero quería leer bien breve algo que escribió otra escritora, Ana María Fuster Lavín, en la revista Cruce. Ella dice lo siguiente: leemos la ciudad de la mirada de ambos artistas, así como leemos nuestras propias vivencias. Así este proyecto nos invita a entender nuestro Santurce, ese que nos habita, que recorremos cada día, ese que algunos se han dado la tarea de historiar como el recordado Fernando Picó. también nos lleva a vislumbrar un futuro para una ciudad de abandonos, pues es uno de los aspectos de la palabra, son la perspectiva de transformación y permanencia. Viajamos pues con esta obra en 22 estaciones, de forma creativa, del mito a la historia, al presente y, ¿por qué no?, a un posible. Gracias. De nuevo con Marianne.
Gracias, Alexandra. Well, one of our other strategic direction has to do with strengthening community through creative placemaking. And here, well, I'm going to be talking about the program Mac en el Barrio, which right now has a presence, an ongoing presence in 36 communities across 8 different municipalities. And as you will see, the projects, the artistic projects that are created emerge from community immersion, ongoing dialogue with community residents, participatory planning, and of course, we are integrating, community voices, their needs, and experiences. To be able to carry out this program, the museum also partners with experts in urban planning, environmental presentation, public health, social services, among other fields. And through the advocacy work that the museum does, in relation to the communities and their own projects, the program also bolsters favorable public policy changes. And we have been able to help recover abandoned lots and structures that are repurposed for community use and the reactivation of economic activity in depressed areas. You're going to see here, let's see if I can change the slide. This slide, I think, is very revealing in the way that the methodology that the museum implements for this program. It's a cumulative methodology. So as you see, we started out, in our immediate vicinity here in San Juan. The community is in Santurce in 2014. And then, the program has been growing. I always say it grows in an organic manner. The way that it has grown is in direct relation to the needs that Puerto Rico faces, the different challenges, and also in relation to the different natural disasters that we have confronted. So you will see in this map here, we are, of course, in San Juan, in the northern part of Puerto Rico, and we have been moving, for example, to the southwestern part of Puerto Rico, and that was in part, due to the earthquake activity that we faced in 2020. So we have been expanding the program to different parts of Puerto Rico. And this particular year, we started our collaboration in 2022 with the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College in CUNY. And this, a few weeks ago, we presented our first commission project, Mac en el Barrio in New York City. So the idea is, for us to have also a permanent presence, in relation to our diaspora in the United States. So to go more in depth as to what this program does, it is a wide scope community initiative, as Bahia mentioned. Of course, it is an outreach program, so much of the activity takes place directly in different communities throughout the island, but we continuously propitiate the participation of community residents to also be able to enjoy, the different programs that the museum implements here within our building. So among the objectives of the program are critically interpreting the historical, economic, political, and social fabric out of which our neighborhoods, our barrios emerge, and making visible the distinct social communities and race-related communities that coexist in them. It's very important, that I have been mentioning, different parts of Puerto Rico and how this program has spread out. But as I mentioned earlier, we also consider within the program communities of interest and communities of affinity, like the example that I mentioned, with this organization that provides assistance to survivors of gender violence. And such as that, we have projects, as you will see, with organizations that provide shelters, that provide services to homeless people and other communities of interest. So the program consists of a program of commissions of artworks that, it has an interdisciplinary approach that this program takes place directly in the communities, different collective creative processes into which the community is integrated, and programs of historical and cultural education for students, adults, seniors, and the homeless. So our approach through these programs that serves mainly, youth and the elderly, but it is really thought of and designed, as having an intergenerational approach. And we procure also for an integration, people from different walks of life, different ages, etc. And the community emergency programs, which I will talk about a bit later. So these are other examples. I will go through this very quickly. And I would like to invite back Alexandra to talk about this project.
Perfecto, sí. Muchas gracias. Trataré de no extenderme, porque han sido más de, ¿verdad? De 6 actividades de poesía que hemos realizado, y precisamente han partido de esa misma postura del museo, ¿verdad? De ser parte de la comunidad, de no imponer, y asimismo en los distintos eventos que hemos curado de poesía, pues también sí se han integrado poetas de distintas partes de la isla, representantes de distintas identidades, generaciones, etcétera, pero siempre se ha pretendido que sea algo cónsono con la comunidad que nos recibe. Y pues hemos hecho distintos eventos y buscamos entonces pues destacar, ¿verdad? La naturaleza de la actividad, la naturaleza del espacio que nos recibe, y también los hemos puesto ¿verdad? en una relación directa con las exhibiciones que ha ofrecido el museo en ese momento. Estaba pensando, wow, si menciono la cantidad de poetas, pues puede que me extienda demasiado, pero para un poquito describir, ¿verdad? En una primera ocasión, eso fue curado por Luis Negrón, narrador y miembro de la comunidad de la 20, ¿verdad? De esa zona de hipódromo en Santurce, pues ahí hubo 20 poetas. Luego le siguió otra actividad que hubo otros 20 poetas, y así por el estilo. Así que realmente estas actividades han ofrecido una curaduría, ¿verdad? De la poesía contemporánea, ¿verdad? Practicada por distintas, ¿verdad? Distintas generaciones, personas de la isla, de la diáspora y demás. Yo quiero, ¿verdad? Para no extenderme demasiado, porque siento que en la anterior como que me emocioné muchísimo, pero quería destacar 2 en particular. Una que ¿verdad? Fue parte de la exhibición Novenario, y esa fue en Alto del Cabro. En esa, pues la quiero destacar porque fue un momento de duelo, ¿no? El novenario pues tenía ese mensaje, ese tema del duelo, y entonces a través de la persona enlace con la comunidad, obtuvimos datos de distintos miembros de la comunidad que habían fallecido, y entonces cada poeta dedicó su intervención a la memoria de una de estas personas, que obtuvimos, ¿verdad? Detalles y anécdotas personales de estas distintas personas, y entonces el poeta o la poeta pues le dedicaba su participación a esta persona y la acompañaba, ¿verdad? De esa anécdota. Hubo dos poetas, entre ellas Mara Pastor, una poeta puertorriqueña que dedicó, ¿verdad? Hizo un poema en particular para esta persona. Y pues fue un espacio que permitió, ¿verdad? Que doliéramos en conjunto, al mismo tiempo que le brindáramos, ¿verdad? Un homenaje a la comunidad en la cual ya habíamos, ¿verdad? Participado en otras dos ocasiones anteriores y me parecía que era bien propicio, ¿verdad? Rendirle ese honor y ese tributo a través de la poesía, desde la seriedad, ¿verdad? Del evento, pero también desde el amor. Para mí fue de las más bonitas por esa cuestión personal. Y la otra que quería destacar es la que precisamente vemos allí, esa foto es en la librería La Esquina, que es en Río Piedras. Y me llamó mucho la atención, ¿verdad? Fue en apoyo precisamente a La Esquina, que es una librería de Luis Negrón, pero también a la comunidad de Río Piedras. En ese en particular siempre participan jóvenes, ¿verdad? Y escritores emergentes. En esta vez pues participaron más y fue bien bonita por la diversidad. Sin embargo, al mismo tiempo había muchos puntos de encuentro en términos de la poesía que presentaban y se llenó. Esa foto apenas, ¿verdad? Porque después del otro lado de la calle también había gente que fue a escuchar. Y en esta participación los poetas escribieron un poema basándose en una de las piezas y precisamente algunos de ellos, los poemas eran sobre las intervenciones que se hicieron en los proyectos de la comunidad de MAC en el barrio. Cada una de estos eventos de poesía pues ha tenido como ¿verdad? Su personalidad, su huellita, su distinción, pero yo diría que lo que tienen en común, ¿verdad? Es la idea de reunir significativamente, ¿verdad? Una representación de la poesía, pero en conversación ¿verdad? Y a la misma vez en participación directa con la comunidad. Y pues no sé, me llena de mucho honor sentir que he sido parte de esas actividades y esos procesos.
Gracias, Alexandra. Here is back to the presentation. Here is another example of another annual community event, which we call Cangrejeo por el Barrio. On the left photograph, you can see an example of how we have gone, in this case, in bicycles to see the project of Santurce, un libro mural. So we look for different means and different strategies to connect with our audiences and engage new audiences with the projects that the museum creates with its artists. And in relation to MAC en el Barrio, for you to have an idea of how this program is implemented, here you have an image of the different projects that have been presented in Cataño. As I mentioned, this is a cumulative program and project so that we remain in place with our educators, myself as curator and the other curator that the museum has. And we invite different artists or artists from the community to develop and create these different projects. This is an example of one of the projects, Cantar un Pueblo by Lisbeth Roman. It's an ethnographic archive, songbook, and documentary project in development since 2018 and created together with young people and leaders from the Puente Blanco community and older adults from the Wilson Ramos Center in Cataño. This musical production includes 9 songs, 6 interviews, and 3 poetic interventions that are the result of years of creative workshops, sharing with the community, meetings for collective writing, historical research, active listening, and interviews. The songs of this production were recorded live during 2 presentations held in August 2022 in Villa Pesquera, and at the Puente Blanco Community Center in Cataño. Right now, this songbook and docudisco is available on all digital platforms. So I hope that you notice, the different disciplines and the different platforms that the museum uses to give visibility to all of these projects. These are part of the young people, that joined Lisbeth most recently, during the most recent iteration, of this particular project. This is a mural by Nathan Budov. This is a building that was abandoned for over 2 decades. The mural is titled Between Land and Sea. It's also part of an alliance between the MAC and the Center for Studies for Sustainable Development of Jimenez University. It is an entity with which the museum collaborated to advance the objectives of an ecological and sustainable tourism project that the university works with the communities and the municipal government. This particular project was our first experience. MAC en el Barrio has produced over 60 projects throughout these 9 years. And this is an example of one of the projects, in this case, the only project actually that we have carried out as a work for hire, in this case, by part of the university. And now I would like to, these are other views of the project. The iconography of this mural was decided, through workshops with the community. And now I would like to invite Pedro Carrion to comment on this particular project, Community for a Community by artist Sergio Vázquez.
Pues como le estaba diciendo, no sé si me habían escuchado anteriormente o me están escuchando, pues el MAT ha traído varios proyectos a la comunidad y a otras comunidades del municipio de Cataño, relacionado a lo que nosotros llevamos haciendo por más de 4 décadas dentro de lo que es la reserva de la Ciénaga de las Cucharillas. Esto ha sido una lucha de resiliencia y de resistencia comunitaria por muchos años, ya que este lugar en un momento dado había sido utilizado para depósito de basura con el propósito de en un momento dado desarrollar unos parques industriales y de esa manera poder expropiar a la comunidad, gracias a la intervención y la lucha de la comunidad. Así que nos hemos dado la tarea de convertir este espacio en un laboratorio vivo. Prácticamente nos visitan jóvenes de todas las escuelas de la región educativa, estudiantes universitarios, no tan solo de Puerto Rico, sino de varias partes del mundo, que también van a desarrollar proyectos de investigaciones en el área. Es bien interesante esta dinámica, porque es la comunidad la que comaneja y maneja el espacio natural dentro de este ecosistema. Por lo largo de los años hemos desarrollado tantos proyectos de investigación de gran envergadura y en estos momentos nos encontramos todavía desarrollando nuevos proyectos dirigidos a personas de la comunidad. Ahora estamos trabajando unos proyectos que van dirigidos a personas mayores de la tercera edad, donde le estamos ayudando y enseñando cómo trabajar con bioconductores para generar energía autosustentable, que es uno de los proyectos que estamos trabajando actualmente. Otro de los proyectos que vamos a estar trabajando es la creación de un centro donde vamos a tener una serie de equipos, de maquetas, para que los estudiantes puedan llevar a cabo varios proyectos dentro del área, que es sumamente importante, ya que todo lo que desarrollamos en esto va dirigido a los jóvenes de la comunidad, darle herramientas a la comunidad para que la comunidad pueda entender el comportamiento de estos ecosistemas y mejorar la calidad de vida, ya que se ven afectados directamente dentro de estos espacios por las inundaciones urbanas que se crean en esta área, ya que son áreas de captación. Y estos proyectos van de la mano con obras de teatro que se llevan a cabo, donde atrae un sinnúmero de personas en general de toda la isla, que es sumamente importante porque ayuda al desarrollo de la economía local dentro de la comunidad.
Gracias, Pedro. I'm going to share with you images of other projects, and I know that maybe we are running out of time. So this is a project by Del Pilar Ortiz. As you will see later on, Joaquin Octavio is going to be presenting his work, which was a theater piece that took place also in the natural reserve, in this same natural reserve, so that you get the idea again of how every year we bring in different artists to work in collaboration, in this case with the Juana Matos community and Corredor del Yaguazo and Pedro and the community residents. And later on, I'm going to be sharing a video of this piece. But what is very important in this case is that this is an example of how some of these projects later on become part of the permanent collection of the museum. And that gives us the opportunity to broaden, people that get in contact with these works of art, and the work, how we are able to share, these narratives with a broader audience through our education programs. As I mentioned earlier, through MAC en el Barrio, the museum has in place this community emergency program, which we activate with the different emergencies, not only the hurricanes. As I mentioned, we also have some earthquake activity, COVID, and different situations, that Puerto Rico has faced in these past years. So this emergency program basically is aimed at not only at individuals whose lives and homes have been affected by these natural disasters, but also in thinking how to financially support our artist class by creating work opportunities and providing assistance through our Artist Emergency Fund. So through different initiatives, the museum has been helping to regenerate the arts ecosystem, attend affected populations, facilitate expression and the building of creative capacities, and restoring hope and dignity, and psychological and social well-being, as well as a sense of normalcy. Here are some images of how we have carried out this work. In this case, the destruction of Jose Rosa's studio. We did a partnership with Caribbean University and the municipality of Bayamón, and this workshop was rebuilt, and the works of art were restored. This is an image of also we implemented, a cultural activities program. And what we asked for in case, instead of a donation, we asked a donation of money. We asked for supplies, which we then take to the different communities. After Hurricane Maria, we did also this project, which was a campaign to educate people as to the rights of the homeless, because we have this collaboration with the shelter Fondita de Jesus, and they were celebrating, the 10th anniversary of the Carta de Derechos de las Personas Sin Hogar, and this was a project that we did with a youth program that we have at the museum. They did short videos, they did these posters, etc. And we were able to educate about the rights of the homeless. These are images of some workshops. This is again an example of a performance called Requiem by artist Iber Roman and community residents and other invited artists. Also presented in conjunction with the Novenario exhibition, which we have been mentioning. And as an essential program that the museum has, it's called La 18, is our audiovisual unit that provides services to other programs within the museum. And it's a space also that provides work opportunities for filmmakers, different technicians. Here you see some of the services that are provided by La 18. We created this unit to fill the need, that the museum had for documenting its own projects. But we have been also developing it as a guided artistic research practice, summer youth intensives, different content that is generated for the digital platforms that the museum uses. Of course, in the area of education, the education program as well. For the exhibitions, different products that are created for us to broaden the reach of the content that we create. And in the case of MAC en el Barrio, La 18 works very closely with the program, documenting all of these artistic commissions, carrying out Cine en el Barrio, community dialogues. There's a podcast that's called El Podcast del MAC, and also workshops for citizen reporters, which is something that we are carrying out directly in Loíza. Here are some images in relation to these products that the museum has generated. And it is very important because through, for example, the community dialogues, we are able to share, community dialogues integrate artists and community leaders. They are able to share their experiences, their challenges, but also how can arts be a resource, for change. Right now, we are also working on the development of La 18 as a social enterprise to provide different kinds of services, not only to nonprofit organizations, to artists, other art initiatives, and creating social responsibility campaigns, etc. And now I would like to end, and I don't know if we still have time, for you to have an idea, of the quality of the work that comes out of La 18. This is a short documentary film of the art piece that I mentioned earlier by Ada del Pilar Ortiz, 30 años en un día, and this documentary was directed by José Raúl Ortiz.
Pues mi nombre es Ada del Pilar y mi práctica artística básicamente toma en consideración los procesos arquitectónicos que ocurren en diferentes comunidades, tomando en perspectiva lo que es la casa, sus transformaciones y su significado en torno a la historia de un lugar. Esta comisión surge por una invitación de Marianne Ramírez, la directora del Museo de Arte Contemporáneo y curadora en jefe, vinculándolo con el proyecto de MAC en el Barrio, situándose en el pueblo de Cataño. Una vez se establecen esos términos, visitamos Juana Matos y conozco a Pedro Carrion. Y él es la primera persona con quien yo hablo y me da todo el contexto histórico de la comunidad.
Esta comunidad se empieza a establecer antes de los 30. ¿Por qué? Porque la carretera PR5 era el camino principal, ahí lo que estaba era la vía del ferrocarril, que se movía hacia la puntilla y de ahí se exportaba literalmente todo para San Juan. Según entonces la gente del campo fue buscando oportunidades de trabajo, pues venían al área metropolitana. Y Cataño nace de esa manera. A esto se le llamaba el fanguito, porque era eso, era fango. Según llegaban las personas, pues se iban metiendo más adentro, y los últimos que llegaban le tocaban acá abajo te metido, ¿sabes? Todo esto estaba lleno de agua. Ya para mediados finales del 60, empieza una expropiación. Las personas que vivían aquí los iban a ir expropiando con tener una mejor calidad de vida. Pero detrás de todo esto, como todo en la vida, hay otro propósito oculto, y es el desarrollo. Y los terrenos que las personas habían rellenado con sacrificio eran terrenos estratégicos porque estaban cerca de la costa. Muchas de las personas que vivían aquí se fueron para los residenciales, pero luego con el tiempo empezaron a regresar y a ocupar de nuevo los espacios en la comunidad. Para detener esa migración se construye el canal que ustedes vieron al frente, ese caño. El fin era drenar el agua que llegaba a este lugar para eventualmente construir un parque industrial. Con las mismas máquinas que ellos construyeron el canal, esas máquinas se guardaban al lado de casa de mi mamá. Y nosotros por las tardes prendíamos las máquinas y empezábamos a abrir canales para que el agua recirculara. Ellos nos descubrieron, nos chotearon. Y entonces, ¿qué hizo el gobierno? El gobierno lo que empezó fue a tirarnos basura para obligar a las personas a que, ya que no se quieren ir, pues vamos a hacer un vertedero para que se vayan. Ahí entonces nosotros empezamos a limpiar las calles, a organizar la comunidad. Y cuando nos metimos con las industrias, que eran los que traían los desperdicios químicos, los desperdicios biomédicos que entejaban en la comunidad, ahí fue cuando la cosa se puso peor.
Todas esas cosas que hubieron en ese momento, las intenciones, no se perpetuaron por las luchas que esta comunidad, ¿verdad?, ejecutó en contra de eso. Así que como dentro de todo el recorrido, él fue la primera y la única persona con quien me pude sentar bien y tener este momento lúcido de, ajá, aquí hay un contenido, pues entonces me planteo en simplemente escoger la comunidad Juana Matos. Y una vez ya eso está establecido, pues entonces pasa el proceso de conceptualizar la obra, cómo voy a utilizar el espacio, cómo Juana Matos, ¿verdad?, pasa a ser el emblema del proyecto. Entonces ahí pasa parte del proceso de inmersión que comienza con unas entrevistas. Primero para tener más información sobre la comunidad, pero también conocer personas. Y entre esas personas está Isabel. Se le presentó a ella primero la idea. ¿Qué tal, Isabel, si podemos hacer un molde de tu pared? De una forma bien abstracta.
Sí, tuvimos una cita, una entrevista en el Centro de Servicios Múltiples de la Barriada. Ahí ella me explicó lo que ella quería hacer, cómo lo quería hacer. Yo le ofrecí mi casa. Se usó desde el tubo de la luz, desde el tomacorriente, hasta la ventana, hasta un poquito más allá de la ventana. Antes de hacer el trabajo en la pared, ya ella me había dado las muestras de cómo iba a ser, de que la pared no iba a ser dañada. Ya como ustedes ven, si miran la pared, parece que ahí no se hizo nada, está igualita.
El aplicar el material en la fachada, el reto es más bien, ¿verdad?, aguantar la intensidad del sol, la labor física de subir, bajar escaleras, pero una vez se arranca es casi como llevarte algo que no se quiere salir. Remover también parte de la fibra, del polvo, del sucio que el tiempo, ¿verdad?, aplica a una estructura.
Perdón, o sea que aquí hay dos casas.
Aquí hay dos casas. Sí, de Isabel y de Pedro. La de Pedro, él tenía la preocupación, por ejemplo, de que su casa es pintada, tiene pintura azul.
Sí, pues mira, pues Ada se comunicó nuevamente conmigo y me habla un poco del proyecto, de que ella quería desarrollar un proyecto con un tipo de pegamento, que era un látex, donde se aplicaba a las paredes de la casa. Y yo pues me preocupó un poco, así que ella me explicó con detalle de cómo era el proceso, que esto se secaba, que esto era como una piel que se sacaba, que no manchaba. Inclusive me dijo, si se mancha, no te preocupes que yo me encargo de pintar la casa.
Ya en este caso el látex pues pasa ya a ser una cuestión más de forma y textura, pero también ofrece esta sensación de la piel, más la estructura en madera, ¿verdad?, que se basa en las construcciones de las casas aquí, pero constituye ser este esqueleto que aguanta estas pieles que están como exhaladas. Una vez ya todas las extracciones surgen, pasamos con Pedro a recorrer una parte de la ciénaga, tomando en consideración la accesibilidad de las personas a la hora de caminar hacia la pieza, pues fueron vertientes importantes para escoger el lugar. Una de las cosas más importantes es que haya una experiencia de inmersión, de entrar y de caminar por el espacio. Pues esa experiencia era muy importante, y cuando llegamos a esta porción, ¿verdad?, que es como un claro, casi como un círculo, hay un hueco en el cielo, como una cápsula de tiempo casi. Además de que también hay ciertas porciones, ¿verdad?, de lo que fueron diferentes estructuras. Vemos pisos, bloques, ¿verdad?, que sostuvieron una casa. Vemos columnas de madera, zocos rotos. Todo eso, ¿verdad?, activa el lugar. Hay algo poético de construirlo desde el lugar de origen de la comunidad. Como casi tomar la acción de cerrar el caño, pero para unir más y volver a atar la comunidad a su cuna. Y cómo eso pasa a ser representado con esta estructura fantasmagórica, tiene cierto elemento abstraído, ¿no? Porque el punto no es recrear. Esta pieza es como una estrategia de reconectar dos porciones de tierra, no para reproducir la historia o simplemente contarla, sino el perpetuar una unión entre los que quizás desconocen de los procesos que surgieron aquí, ya sea para la comunidad, ya sea para mí, ya sea para las personas que lo vengan a ver. Y también lo observo como cuando la serpiente muda la piel, entonces se va a la serpiente, pero entonces la piel está allí.
I hope you can hear me. I would like to invite Joaquin Octavio for him to present his piece, Anoxia.
Hi, hello. Well, thank you for having me and for the opportunity to talk a bit about Anoxia. Anoxia is a project that began in 2015. On this occasion, I will present you with images from the latest version, the 2022 staging commissioned by the Museo de Arte Contemporaneo, curated by Marianne Ramírez. First of all, this is a true story, made up of many stories of the convergence of many families in the Juana Matos community, a settlement in the wetlands of the Ciénaga Las Cucharillas near the San Juan Bay area, as you saw in the documentary. It was in Juana Matos that I met Don Pedro Carrion, a skilled carpenter by trade, an intuitive and self-taught biologist, a community leader, an activist, and environmentalist by vocation. I met with Don Pedro in the same house where he was born, attended by a midwife, as he proudly always points out. I interviewed him. We've developed a friendship and a trusting relationship. He introduced me to several members of his family and his community, whom I also interviewed. The images from his story seemed provocative for me and for to make a theater and dance piece. So I asked Don Pedro for permission to use his testimonies as raw material for an experimental theatrical production, with the warning that it wouldn't be a classical biography, no? His memories would be translated into a thematic and poetic piece. He gave me his blessing, and I embarked on a process of research and rehearsals with La Trinchera, an experimental dance trio composed by Cristina Lugo, Marily Pizarro, and Beatriz Irizarry. Together, we developed the piece titled Anoxia, a concept I learned while studying life in the wetlands and shorelines, which means a lack of oxygen. An anoxic event in a body of water is a common cause of marine life mortality. Anoxia is a theatrical dance and performance piece and it's a guided walk through the wetland forest, representing the relationship between human life and wildlife, coexistence in this ecosystem, centered on human experience, but viewing it as a component of something larger. Let's see. We begin by welcoming the audience at the reserve's entrance, a diverse audience that includes theater and art enthusiasts, as well as members of the community. One of the actress dancers takes on the persona of Don Pedro, a born and raised person from this place, offering an educational tour, identifying wildlife species and ecosystem dynamics as people walk through it. All done with a tone of familiarity and that transitions into an exercise of memory. During the tour, we guide people in an immersion of memories. The forest becomes a forest of memories. The audience follows this character into a clearing in the forest where we see the moment of her birth. We recreate a birth assisted by a midwife in very precarious conditions, where we introduce the idea of breathing oxygen as a symbol of life and the lack of it as death. The mother dies during childbirth. Her spirit approaches the narrator. From this point onward, the guiding character, the narrator, ceases to be a guide and is absorbed by the living image of her memories. We enter the world of the spirits that inhabit the forest of her memories. A group of children from the Juana Matos community joined our piece. Here they are in a scene of bird watching games. They show us what the childhood experience was like within the forest for the past inhabitants. The dancers not only embody human life, but also in transitions between scenes and spaces, they embody microscopic life and establish a physical relationship with the audience. With their movements, they make the audience move from one place to another and making them move along as part of one larger body. We call this the dance of the washerwomen and the amoebas, as the actresses and dancers embody seemingly human form and microscopic form. And then they portray the microscopic life mirroring human form, recognizable by everyday movements. The narrator character reappears. She apologizes to the audience for getting lost in a narrative about herself. This is what the reason is we are interested in reflecting on what it means to narrate oneself, moving from the personal to the political, from the political to the collective. Her memory is like the terrain itself, in danger of displacement or deforestation. Another theme addressed in adapting Don Pedro's memories was the creation of the character La Nene, a gender non-conforming child. We acknowledged that La Nene's identity is not new. It is part of our history. They represent children raised outside the patriarchal social order. As part of the experience in nature, night falls during the piece. Our state of being in relation to the forest as night falls changes just like it does for all animals. This is an important part of the sensory immersion. The sounds of the night become part of the work. The actresses shed their wardrobe, their costumes, their identities become blurry. The actresses evoke forgotten characters dissolved by the passage of time. We see them blurry as if they were through a veil. At night, we speak of the dead. We drink and toast to them. In this way, we talk about someone who preserves ancient rituals, the old spiritist, the last resident within the mangrove. The presence of the spiritist is recreated with a dance of a spiritual ritual linked to water and to the wetland. Her spirit is considered a guardian of the forest. Sorry. Being a guardian of the forest is the same thing as being a guardian of our roots and our legacy, as we live under the threat of displacement and extinction ourselves. This is a reality that concerns not only the Juana Matos community, it concerns Puerto Rico and the whole world, really, nowadays with the climate crisis. In this way, we reach the final scene and dance based on the concept that gives the piece its title. We represent an anoxic event, death due to lack of oxygen. We created this scene from various perspectives, both as natural phenomenon and the social phenomena that affect us as communities. As is often the case in nature and storytelling, life follows death. The children of the forest reappear and dance in the same place where the performers lie inert. With their movement, they lift them up and finish the piece together. With the final bow, we aim to plant in these children a sense of pride and belonging and love for their artistic expressions. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all for presenting such rich, it's like you can't encapsulate all the work that Mac does in 50 minutes, in an hour. Part of it is about experiencing it on the ground, but I hope that all people on the webinar today were able to just get a snapshot of the feel and a feel of what Marianne and her team at MAC has been able to create. I'd like to say that the chat is now open for any questions you might have. I'll say just from our own perspective of thinking about this relationship between community and institution as it relates to the well-being of both the institution and the community. Maybe if panelists can share the ways in which this work has influenced their work inside. So the work, Marianne, that you carry out as a museum, how has this porous relationship with community influenced the inside of the museum? As artists, Joaquin and Alexandra, like, how has this interaction with museum and community informed your practice? And as Pedro, like, what does this mean about the relationship between, you know, a museum and the community and the potential it might have? Please, if you have a question, please put it in the chat or come off of mute and camera and let us know. We have time for about 1 or 2 questions before we have to let you go. But yeah, Marianne, maybe you can start about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bueno, en realidad, lo que es la orientación comunitaria es algo que ya es parte inherente de todo el trabajo que el museo realiza. Así que a través del programa de MAC en el barrio y nuestro contacto con todas estas comunidades, las diferentes circunstancias, ¿verdad? que viven, lo que son sus aportaciones también, ¿verdad? Culturales, pues nuestro propio equipo de trabajo es reflejo de esa comunidad, y creo que en gran medida, como comentaba ahorita Alexandra, básicamente nos mueve el amor, ¿verdad? Y nos mueve el crear lo que nos ha permitido a nosotros, ahorita que mencioné pues el ejemplo de la integración de la obra de Ada del Pilar a la colección del museo. Cuando nosotros presentamos estas obras ya dentro del contexto de la institución e invitamos a estos líderes comunitarios, a los residentes a participar de los programas educativos acá, pues se da una retroalimentación continua, así que nosotros ampliamos lo que son nuestros recursos educativos y nos permite también presentar, vamos a decirlo, o sea, lograr una integración social entre personas que vienen de diferentes esferas, que se dé esa integración social, que se conozca. Yo creo que se genera un sentido también de empatía y de solidaridad que se ha logrado construir a lo largo de todos estos años, ya yo diría que con muchísima transparencia. Nos ha permitido también que entre los propios líderes se compartan recursos, que en momentos inclusive cuando nuestra institución ha visto sus fondos amenazados, ha sido la propia comunidad la que también pues ha dicho presente en alguna gestión de abogacía que se esté trabajando. Pero sí, en términos de las exhibiciones, yo diría que nosotros hemos adoptado un modelo distinto de exhibición, donde dentro de las exhibiciones a veces tenemos proyectos que están corriendo simultáneamente en comunidad, así que esa relación bidireccional nos permite ampliar las audiencias, ampliar contenidos, y que también, ¿verdad?, dentro del arte contemporáneo, donde muchas veces el proceso de ejecución de una obra es hasta más importante que el resultado, pues ese proceso también está puesto a la vista y el público pues se educa, ¿verdad?, sobre lo que es la expresión artística contemporánea. Así que nada, quiero pues darle también espacio a los compañeros, ¿verdad?, a responder.
Bueno, yo evito ser muy, ¿verdad?, muy folclórica, porque es que me causa mucha emoción, ¿verdad?, hablar de todas estas cosas. Yo lo voy a poner en 3 renglones. El primero tiene que ver con, yo doy clase también, soy profesora, y en ese sentido, todas estas experiencias como, ¿verdad?, como curadora, pero también como participante, como, ¿verdad?, parte de sobre todo anoxia. Yo escribí tres artículos sobre anoxia, y uno de esos artículos es un artículo académico, y entonces tener ese acceso a un corpus que a la misma vez integra lo que está vivo, lo que es pertinente, lo que es inmediato, pues me da a mí mucho contenido para los distintos cursos que trabajo. Así que en un sentido, digamos, por esa línea profesional como profesora, pues me da material, me da contenido y me permite esbozar mis clases y integrar las expresiones culturales contemporáneas en esa relación con esa inmediatez histórica y esa cuestión del espacio. En ese sentido, en el sentido como escritora, pues en definitivo, es como una escuela, son temas, son modos, perspectivas nuevas de ver distintas, de ver distintas realidades y de ver distintas instancias de ser mujer, de ser persona, de ser niña, de pensarme también a mí misma como escritora. Así que es súper nutritivo el tener esa relación entre arte y comunidad y ver distintas realidades, pero que a la misma vez es mi realidad, que eso para mí es maravilloso. Porque entonces ahí está el otro renglón que sería el de la identidad, el cómo de momento mi identidad se hace más compleja, más amplia, más horizontal, cómo me puedo ver en tantos espacios y sentir que mi yo, mujer, Caribe, artista, es mucho más de lo que creía, ¿no? Y entonces eso siempre es bien nutritivo y bien maravilloso.
Para mí, como artista y también es parte de una comunidad de, de artistas que han tenido relación con el Museo de Arte Contemporáneo. Soy un espectador estimulado constantemente, enriquecido constantemente por las obras de mis pares, de mis colegas, amigues, que están desarrollando proyectos maravillosos en sus distintas áreas. Me ha dado la oportunidad de recibir, de profundizar con artículos como los que ha escrito Alexandra, reflexiones que profundizan más, a veces más que de lo que uno mismo podía percibir, estando tan cerca de un proyecto, ver otras aristas, dimensiones eh, de otros ojos, y eso es maravilloso. Eso hace que Anoxia se ha presentado en varias ocasiones, en varios lugares, y cada vez sentimos que se transforma, así como nosotros nos transformamos, y nos transformamos también con los estímulos de nuestra comunidad. Otra cosa, el proyecto, al planteárselo al MAC en el barrio, integró por primera vez a los niños de la comunidad, que me parece un atributo hermoso y valioso, ya que nosotros también queríamos ofrecer algo a la comunidad, y talleres de arte, de teatro, de movimiento, fueron nuestra aportación a la comunidad y a esos niños, y esos niños se integran al elenco de la pieza, haciéndola mucho mejor, y eso también se da como en ese intercambio, en esa manera de hacerse más pertinente en ambas direcciones.
Sí, para mí lo más interesante de todo este proceso es plasmar, es como una radiografía a la vida en sí, a la comunidad, al diario vivir, y que todas estas historias que se han presentado de una manera o de otra son bien pertinentes porque nos identifican a nosotros con con otras comunidades. O sea, es la realidad de lo que viven las comunidades. Y, y sacar esto donde otras personas tienen la oportunidad de verlo, de compartir ideas y evidencias, es lo más interesante, ya que lo que buscamos es eso, que no se quede en un lugar específico, sino que otras personas puedan verlo y puedan asociarlo con la realidad de cada uno de ellos, porque son historias prácticamente repetitivas en lugares diferentes, y eso es lo que nos une como comunidades. Yo pues represento a la comunidad de Guanamato, donde nací, me crié y aún vivo en esa comunidad, pero es es una realidad prácticamente en otras comunidades. Y eso es lo que se busca, y que nos identifiquemos y que sepamos que las mismas cosas que nos ocurren a nosotros en la comunidad también le ocurren en otras personas y en otras comunidades en la isla, en diferentes pueblos, pero también fuera de la isla, que son situaciones bastante similares a las que vivimos, y es una manera de proyectarlo, de hacer de que otras personas lo conozcan. Eso es lo interesante de todo este proceso.
Thank you so much. I recognize you've come up on time. I'm going to pass it over to Jamie just to close us out, but I want to just express so much gratitude to Marianne, Joaquin, Pedro, and Alexandra for sharing all that you have created and are doing in your communities and in partnership together. So thank you so much. And thank you for all who joined us today. Jamie.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really incredible, and I've learned so much today. So thank you everyone for joining us for our summer series as part of the 2023 Grantmakers in the Arts Conference. Our next session, Funding for the Culture, a Just Transition Investing Approach to Supporting Our Movements, is on October 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And so we hope to see you there. And for those of you joining us in person, we will see you in just a few weeks, which is very exciting. So thank you, everyone.